Just bring it in and let's center. And remember our intentions for the class that we set. And just be present. Breathe out as breath 1. In as 2. And 1. And 2. Breathe in. And 1. 2. Breathe in. Exhale. And breathe in, God, on 1, 2. And breathe out any discomfort on 1. And breathe in the divine presence. And breathe out uncertainty and discomfort. Shake it out. And breathe in peace. And bring yourself here. Find your own rhythm. And I know that there is one presence, one divine presence that is in and through everything. It is in and through everything that I can imagine. It is in and through everything, present, seen and unseen, beyond my wildest dreams, and I know that I am one with it because I imagine, because my imagination takes me to places unseen and unthought of previously. I know I am one with the divine, and I know that everyone here is one with the divine as well, that we are intuitively guided, that there is a peace and a presence that flows up and out and in love and brings us all together. I'm grateful for this, and I welcome this tonight in this class, knowing that all that we present, all that we talk about, all that we discuss is in the mind and in the eye of the divine. And I release this knowing that it is so, anchored in love, and together we say,
so it is.
So, are we on?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and so we know that this is not. We know that, well, I didn't know. I kept thinking that we had 2 more weeks after tonight. And then tonight as I was walking in, I was like, no, Nancy Walton asked me, she goes, so when is next week your last night? And I was like, no, the 22nd is our last night. She goes, next week, 3 of you in unison went, next week is the 22nd. So it is the 22nd next week. So we're done next week. I was thinking we had another week. I'm kind of sad. But, so 2 of us are sad. Maybe more. But sad is not a bad thing. Sad just means that there's a release of energy, and that just means something new will come in to fill it. That's what I think. And so, so we're going to get ready to end, and so we'll always start like this the next 2 weeks, and then, but we're also going to do presentations. I would like to discuss the dark night of the soul, the exercise we did last week, and see if anything came up for anyone over the week, or if there were new insights. And then as we get close to the 7:30 mark, we'll probably do a presentation and then take a break. Just kind of move slowly, and we'll also be looking at some of the reading. So that's my intention for tonight. Does anyone have anything else you'd like to add to that intention? No? Okay. The one thing that struck me this week, and this isn't in our reading, but this is Goldsmith, Practicing the Presence. How many of you have read this or used this? Yeah? Have you read this one? No? Okay. Well, this one is another one of those books. This one's a little bit easier to read than his text, The Foundations of Mysticism. I think this is a little bit easier. But something happened, and so I just picked it out of my bookcase to read, and it got me going all over again. And I remembered that the very first time I read it, it made me cry, and I couldn't even tell you why. And but it is just this phrase. And this is all one whole paragraph that I've condensed into like 4 lines. God is, of that you may be sure. In the degree in which you contemplate, meditate, and keep your mind stayed on God, that's the place wherein you stand is holy ground, for God is with you, will never leave you. You are God. And so, remember, it takes us back to that whole process of I am, right? I am the divine, I am the presence, I am present here now. But it's that line, because when I doubt things, I don't know, like my mind can scurry. It just is like, and I go from here to there, and I can't make a decision. And what I recognized most about my decision-making process is that indecision is my clue to just stop in trying to make plans. Just stop. And that's what I emailed Reverend C.C. Coltrane the other night. And I was like, I realized that if I listen to my indecision, that the decision's already been made. And so that just solved everything. It just lifted this thing that's been going on in my head since I was at the conference in Salt Lake City. And everything is unfolding now. It just is going boom, 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 like that. It's like dominoes. And that is because I picked this up. And it was like, God is, of that you may be sure. Because it's not like I doubt it, but I doubt my own power. And when I read that, and I remember that we are one at peace with the divine, then if God is, then I am. Right? And it took me right back to last week. Last week was really powerful for me. Well, you know, and I observed it and facilitated it, and it was amazing for me. And so there was that piece that spoke to me. And then out of the reading itself, part of that is that when we're this is from Goldsmith too, when we're faced with discords, inharmony, unhappiness, lack and limitation, let's not go to God. Right? Let's not plead, because we don't want to be begging, right? It's not that God doesn't like beggars, it's that we don't need to be, placated in that way. And so he says, let's not go to God. Let's turn away and look out into the world and see, aha, this is part of that universal mesmerism that's trying to convince me that God is not on the field, that God is not in my life. And being tried to convince me that there are 2 powers on earth, but I know better. There cannot be an infinite God and an evil power. There can only be one. And that's on page 257 down at the bottom. And so again, that reminded me with my whole process of indecision recently, and with the dark night of the soul, that even though these things continue to happen, and we might feel displaced, or I felt displaced, that it's not because of an either or, right? Because it's all the same thing. That either or is exactly what I needed to have happen so that I could come to this place where I feel that my life is unfolding like dominoes, right? Exactly like that. So dis-ease in that sense, that D-I-S-EASE is exactly that. It's just being at unrest, uncomfortable. And for us to be uncomfortable is difficult, I think, for many of us. And this is what, and then I'll hush and we can talk about stuff. This is what Mark says, Mark Nepo. He says, I know, and this is on page 196, also part of the reading. I know I'm being held by the nature of things when I feel this ache way inside. I begin to realize that this deep ache is the tuning fork of my soul. It is how I know I am close to what matters. And then he goes on and he says, and though it feels like I will end each time my heart is broken, my heart only breaks into a larger version of itself. When I am present to the process, I am broken open. When I withhold my presence, I am just broken. And I think that's profound. I do. I think this whole book is profound. That when I withhold that process from myself, I just am broken and I walk around fragmented. But when I'm open to the process, it always opens up into something larger and bigger, a bigger version of who I am. And that's been a surprise these last few years, and I keep experiencing it over and over. And I think that's what facilitating the dark night of the soul did for me. Again, it was like, wow, we lose everything. And that was my fear about this decision I was making about ministerial school. Should I go to Atlanta? Should I wait? Should I do the 2-year program or the 3-year program? And I wasn't happy with Tampa, and just wasn't happy, and I wasn't happy, and I wasn't happy, but I had to go there because I felt like I didn't have a choice. And then I really, really wanted to study with Reverend C.C. Coltrane, and but she hadn't been approved yet. And then she got approved, and then it was like, that's a 3-year program. I want a 2-year program. And I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I feel overwhelmed. And it was like, well, of course you do. You haven't shut up since you got back from. I've been talking about it nonstop with anyone who would listen. How crazy it is. And it's not that crazy. It's actually pretty straightforward. Yeah. And I made the decision, and I'm excited about it. And so, there, it just happens. And it just happened the other night. I emailed Reverend Coltrane at like something like 8:46 p.m. and made my decision, turned my phone off, and I went to sleep. And when I got up in the morning, she had emailed me back at 12:15 a.m. Like that quick was the turnaround, saying, I'm so excited. Yeah.
Yay.
I know, thank you.
So what was your decision?
I'm going to Dayton. I'm going to study with Reverend C.C. Coltrane.
For 3 years?
Pardon?
For 3 years?
The 3-year.
Okay.
Probably for me it'll take about 2.5 because I'm starting this summer with some of the prereq. Well, it's not really prereq. Online courses. Yeah. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are there more than one center in Dayton?
Pardon?
Are there more than one center in Dayton?
No, there's one center in Dayton, I believe. I think it's just Reverend Coltrane's, and then, or see, I'm used to last name. I'm an academic, Reverend Cece's, and then I don't like that. People don't call me Dr. Kate, right? It's like totally from the academic side of things, but. And I wasn't ever raised to call people by their first names. It's odd here to say, this is Reverend John and Reverend Barbara. For me, it's like I always want to say, this is Reverend Waterhouse.
I think it just depends on on how you grew up, the people you grew up around.
I know.
Because my parents' friends always introduced themselves by their first name.
Yeah.
Whether it was Dr. John or Dick or whatever.
Right. I
You
would
know.
too.
Yeah.
I would never say, hi, I'm Reverend Barb, like that. But, which is interesting since that's my given name. Why would I choose that? But there was, so if you want to talk about protocol in academia, you all familiar with academics, the whole doctor, Reverend Doctor thing, that no, you don't, the first time someone talks to you, they use your title. Even though you may have just introduced yourself as Kate, they'll still say Dr. Greysen first.
Yeah.
A couple of times. Yeah, and I still call people doctor, even though I've known them for years. I will always, because that's how I was raised in academics. They don't do that anymore. I had a student call me Katie the other day. Well, that's 5 points gone for you.
Well, that's kind of an affectionate way.
It was. was.
And what
That's
was
to
her
be
reaction to
classified.
that?
Yeah, his,
What
actually.
was
It's
his
only
rea-
men that call me Katie.
What was his reaction to that, though?
Power thing.
What was his reaction to that, though?
Oh, he just laughed. Do you want to hear another story? I just had a student, I teach an online class, this is funny too, and I went on a rant about 3 or 4 weeks ago, because they were misspelling my name and they were calling me Miss Greysen online. And I write under everything, on top of everything is Dr. Catherine Greysen, Dr. Catherine Greysen. And so I went on a rant. I'm like, I'm Dr. Greysen, I'm not Miss Greysen, I'm Dr. Greysen, and you're spelling my name wrong too, by the way. It's Greysen. So be careful because with that ring finger, because if it keeps I'm going to start taking points off. You know, this is interpersonal communication. Critical listening is key to understanding, and I'll make every effort, I said in this email, to pronounce your names correctly and to spell them correctly when I give you feedback and all of that. And then I was asking for feedback. They just took the midterm, and the last question was, please give me feedback, you know, on the layout of the course. Blah, 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 layout, the grading, the homework, all of it, me, my teaching style. And this one guy goes, I'm getting good and bad feedback, you know, you're a great teacher, but the coursework is bad, there's too much of this, there's, you know, not enough of that, whatever. And it's true, it's really good feedback for me. But this one guy goes, and finally, and he wrote Dr. Greysen in big letters, he goes, I think your rant was adorable.
I wonder how old that student is. It would be funny if he was like 80 years old.
It just made me laugh all day. Only online would someone call me adorable. And that's what I said to him in the feedback. I was like, you're lucky I've never seen you. We've never met, Hunter. But anyway, it just cracks me up. So, that's made me happy today, that I'm adorable, that it's okay that we rant. So, God is, of that you can be sure. So even though last week we lost everything and we regained things that perhaps we didn't want, didn't need, didn't ever think would come into our presence, like one of you got 3 cars, didn't you? Wasn't that you?
It was,
Drew?
Drew?
no.
It was a guy.
Was it?
Yeah.
I thought it was one of you guys. No, maybe it was Amanda.
I thought it was Amanda.
Okay.
Oh, that might be.
It ended up with 3 cars, which is like kind of cool, but really is that probably she would maybe rather have had something else, like meditation back in her life. So, how do you feel about that? Did any of that stay with you this past week? Like what?
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize how easy it was for you to control our emotions, really, with this little game you played.
Let's call it an exercise.
Whatever you say, Dr. Grace.
Yeah, there it is.
So, like, what do you mean? So you felt like you were manipulated in that way?
Well, yeah,
I did manipulate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it was okay because I was able to explore those feelings I had in both the high and the low. So, yeah, I thought it was a great exercise.
Good.
It was a great exercise, but for me, it was thinking about assessing my value system. So when it came time to give stuff up, and then when time to give stuff up again, and then when it came time to give things up again, it really made me think about / feel how I felt about not having those things,
Right.
and their importance, their relative importance in my life,
Right.
and then wanting them back when they were gone.
Right. Right. Did you explain do you know what we're talking about at all?
I'm figuring it out as you go.
They were given, and you weren't taught here either, so the class was given 16 stickies of each 4 different colors, 4 of each color, and they were asked to write 4 spiritual practices on one, 4 names of people who were important to them on the other, like 1 name on each sticky. 4, I say that because there were some problems with the directions. But 4 material items that they valued, and 4 spiritual, did I already say spiritual practices?
Yeah, you said that one.
Beliefs.
4
Beliefs.
belief systems that you live by, right? And so, and then I read this story about coming into centers for spiritual living and feeling like you come home and it's all good and it's like the honeymoon period for a bit, and then things start happening and everything gets better, but then things go bad again because you haven't really embodied the principles overall. And so you start losing some things, and so I say, you know, throw 4 things into the basket, right? What was it first? It was material things, or no? It was maybe,
Yeah, material
it
things.
was, what?
I thought it was random.
Yeah, it was 4 random
Take
things.
4 things and put them in the basket.
And then you said, do it again. And then you said, if you have any material things left, get rid of those.
Right, but and so I would read more of the story about how, you know, we think we've got this under control, and then our life starts fraying again around the edges, and we're here, but we don't feel like we belong, and la la la, and we might even go to a practitioner, and it gets better for a while, but then it crashes again, and we lose everything. They lost everything. It was very sad. It was hard to read it. And then everything just, they know that, you know, there is this process of becoming the I am, one with the divine, right? Of knowing the truth,
Yeah.
which was a joyful moment. And then they had to pick quickly 16 more. I mixed up all of the stickies. They had to pick 16 of them quickly. Quick. And I was like, go. And they were like, but. They wanted to read.
We
and do
couldn't
it
look at them,
carefully.
we just had to pick them.
Just had to get them. And so, because they were stickies, they were sticking in clumps, and people were trying to,
Yeah.
that's all part of the psychology of it, of course. And then we had them, and then people were like, I don't know one of these people, and someone else is like, I have 3 cars. Like, you know, it's that kind of thing. Did you get what you needed, though? And what did that feel like? It's a good exercise, I think. How else did people feel about that? Fran, do you have any thoughts over the week?
I was just surprised at the order of the people that I gave up.
Oh,
The ones that I thought would be the most significant in my life weren't. And that made me feel a little sad.
oh,
Because, you know, they had a certain space for many years. So, but I figured it was okay.
yeah. So there's some reevaluating, like Michael said. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah. Brenda?
Oh.
I've been doing that all day. I look at someone else when I'm actually kind of.
I realized that even if you took all my stickies away, and I was reduced down to no personal possessions, or the essence of who I am, the truth of who I am is still intact. So
Yeah.
that was the payoff.
Right. And you shared a lot last week too, so that was impactful as well.
For me, I guess it couldn't have come at a more perfect timing, you know, and just, I don't know, I mean, I definitely, you know, had a release after, you know, just everything up and out, because it, like, you know, I heard the emotions, the reevaluations, doing it all like, you know, do it, okay, now Kate's coming around, you know, no. But in a way that was good, because it gave you clarity, it gave you, you know, Guy came away with, you know, some surprises, you know, like Fran did, but I also came away with some clarity. And I didn't have to sit with it for 2 weeks, you know, it was, so doing it in that way was, it was a gift. It was really a gift to, you know, not be in that place of, do I think this, or do I think that, or, you know, oh, okay, all right, this is what I'm clear on, and to have that now as an anchor to move forward in my life is very valuable, so thank you.
Breezy, anything you want to add?
We went all over it yesterday.
Okay. Anything you want to share here, though?
One of my things is when we picked things back out, over half of my things were people I don't know who they are. I think I got everybody's people. So that was just something to work on.
It's one of the things, and I wasn't going to mention this last week, but one of the things that really screwed me up is you said list 4 people that are important, and I felt like being a mystic, so I wrote my name. But then I had to give it up, and it was really,
wow.
It was really hard. I was like,
Yeah, Valerie did that too, and her son.
I don't
And
know
she
what.
was like,
Yeah, hang on.
I don't know how to feel about this. I don't know what this means, and am I going to get myself back, or I mean, and who wound up with me? So I almost, at the time, I almost felt manipulated, betrayed by the exercise, because I'm like, well, I can't do this, I can't get myself up, but I was able to roll with it then. I haven't figured it out, but I was able to roll with it.
So that raises an interesting point, and I'm going to ask you not to talk about someone who's not here. That would be her story to share.
yeah.
And probably I shouldn't have talked about Amanda either in that same note. So that brings up another thing. When are we allowed to use our voice, even in just an exercise that might be frivolous, or what we're supposed to be trying to engage people in some ways? When is it okay to say, I'm not giving myself up? Even in exercise.
And
would that be okay?
what would have your response have been if that had come up? What would?
I would have said, okay.
Put somebody else's name on it.
Because
Okay.
life happens and
Yeah.
we get to choose. Like if someone said, I can't give up my car, I absolutely need my car to go to work, I'm not giving up my car, I'd be like, okay then. I'm not gonna say, throw it in the pile. And just for that, write something else out and throw that in too. Double penalty for you.
Wouldn't
I think that's an interesting question. I would not have made anyone do anything.
But wouldn't resisting that be resisting the point of the exercise?
See, I guess that would be for you to decipher that. I
Well,
can't
the
answer
deeper
that.
question is, can you really give yourself up?
And that's where that's
That's
why I said, go ahead and take it. I know I still got it. So.
Because
you
I
can't.
am.
I am.
All right. You were going to say something?
Well, it
Lisa?
just brought up for me as I'm listening is that maybe the part that you are giving up is the part that you're identified with, that's not the truth of you. And
Right.
you were able to retain that truth, that true being that you are.
That's right. What I learned from it, do you have anything you want to add? Breezy? You sure? Okay. There's that life just continues to happen, and sometimes it does appear, through no fault of our own, that we all of a sudden have these appear to be insurmountable odds. And it's like, but they're really not, but it does feel like that, just because we're human. We'll never get past that. We'll always hopefully be encountering challenges. Otherwise, we've quit growing somewhere. That's my opinion. That's just my opinion. Or you become a saint. That means you're gone. So, any other comments on that exercise? Would you like to see more of that in classes? We don't do a lot of those kind of things in classes, I don't think.
I think they're interesting.
Okay,
Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
experiential stuff. I do.
Yeah, me too.
okay. A lot of people don't like it, like they feel it's a little too touchy-feely stuff.
Well, in the context of,
We didn't touch each other.
No, touchy-feely, but the emotions come
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Even the frustration of, you know, even though we were kind of laughing and it was all okay, of the directions, you know, were they clear or not clear, and how we interpret what someone says, it all goes to what we put down in front of us.
Yeah.
I always feel like I grow a little bit more when I'm pushed out of my comfort zone.
Yes.
Okay. It was a surprise at how 16 little pieces of colored paper could push a class to that point where there were, it was just, you could feel the energy in here was just heavy, heavy. It was amazing. Okay. All right, so it's a little after 7:30, so,
quick step before we, the book that John Goldsmith, you,
oh, this one?
Yeah.
Practicing the Presence. This one is used in Prac 1.
should probably.
And did you want to totally turn off this thing or what?
I think when we get to Cheryl, when she decides, but not right away.
Well, Mike said he didn't want to be on
If Cheryl decides that she
camera.
doesn't want to read it and I read it, we'll let
No,
it continue.
Mike said he didn't want to be on camera.
He doesn't want to be on camera, but we can record, right? Yeah, and since people are listening from a lot of places, at least they can hear you can just focus on the Science of Mind symbol too.
I just closed the thing.
Oh, okay.
Want to start?
Yeah,
Start. Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
All right. John O'Donohue has a very special place in my heart. Before I knew what a spiritual practice was, or that all the beauty, love, and peace that is life was available to me in every moment, and that I was worthy of those things, John's words awakened in me a sense of true belonging. Belonging not only to the world, but also to myself. In class last week, I started the class with one of his poems, or more accurately, one of the prayers that he wrote. He used to be a priest. And saying it in the morning before I left the house was one of my earliest daily practices, which I used to help myself work on keeping beauty at the front of my consciousness so that I could more frequently feel connected to God. I won't read the whole thing, but it ends with, "May I live this day compassionate of heart, gentle in word, gracious in awareness, courageous in thought, present in joy, and generous in love." And to be fair, my wife and I added present in joy, but I think he would have approved. Both my wife and I have highlighted so many passages as we read his work that to start sharing my favorites is always something that I could do if I had the entire evening and I knew that there were other people interested in sharing their thoughts. But since that's not the case, here are two readings short quotes that I thought this audience would enjoy, from a man who used to say that music is what language would be if it could. And I personally feel that on many occasions he did give language the ability to feel like music. The first quote, "The heart is the interface of your life. The human journey strives to make this interface beautiful. It is here that love gathers within you. Love is absolutely vital for a human life. For love alone can awaken what is divine within you. In love you grow and come home to yourself," capital S. "When you learn to love and let yourself be loved, you come home to the hearth of your own spirit. You are warm, you are sheltered." And the second short quote is, "When you send out goodness from yourself, or if you share that which is happy or good within you, It will all come back to you multiplied 10,000 times. In the kingdom of love, there is no competition. There is no possessiveness or control. The more you give away, the more love you give away, the more love you will have. When I first heard the Waterhouses speaking about these things, shortly after I started listening to them online, I knew that I had found my spiritual community. So, rather than reading John's bio, I printed out a copy that I found on his website. I'll pass it out. On the back, there's one of his poems. I'm going to play something for you, but in a couple minutes, if you want to look over it or read the poem or just sit, feel free. And then I encourage anybody during break or afterwards, if they want to look through the books that I brought to see what kind of topics he talks about, feel free.
Can you say the name of the gentleman?
John O'Donoghue, it's going to be on the top of
John
that.
O'Donoghue.
Yes, it's going to be on the top of that page you're going to get.
And would you like to read the poem, or no?
I
just us.
I
Okay.
tend to, oh, no, no. I got plenty of things for you guys to read. No, you can read it at your leisure. Sorry, I counted wrong.
Do you have another copy?
I do, I have
For
many other
two
copies.
more?
You
One
know,
for
I'll tell you
Drew.
what, let me, I have, did you get one?
I have
I don't know.
10 extra copies.
One for Drew and
Yeah,
Amanda?
that's- I'll bring them next week.
Okay,
You can look at, oh, there they are.
I've got one. I just wanted to collect them for Drew and Amanda. You'll bring it up.
I know that's not, again, I'm trying to stay within your 10, 15-minute time frame. So read that at your leisure or while I'm talking if you'd like. During the final part of my presentation, I would like to play some excerpts from an interview he gave with the title, The Inner Landscape of Beauty, so that you can hear in his own voice some of the philosophies John liked to talk about. However, before I do, since obviously I'm not going to play the bulk of the interview, here's a short description in John's words, going over a talk that he was going to give later that year. I assume that this interview was either a preliminary version of the talk or just a practice for the talk that he was going to be given. Here's how he described his evening. The name of the class or talk is The Art of Developing a Beautiful Mind. The world is simply not there. Everything and everyone we see, we view through the lens of our thoughts. Your mind is where your thoughts arise and form. It is not simply with your eyes, but with your mind that you see the world. So much depends on your mind, how you see yourself, who you think you are, how you see others, what you think the meaning of life is, how you see death, belief, God, darkness, and beauty is all determined by the style of the mind you have. Your mind is your greatest treasure. We become so taken up with the world, with having and doing more and more, that we come to ignore who we are and forget what we see the world with. The most powerful way to change your life is to change your mind. In this evening's talk, we will explore ways of awakening, enriching, and refining your mind. We will use lecture, conversation, story, poetry, and meditation. When you beautify your mind, you beautify your world. You learn to see differently. In what seem like dead situations, secret possibilities and invitations begin to open before you. In old suffering that held you long paralyzed, you find new keys. When your mind awakens, your life comes alive and the creative adventure of your soul takes off. Passion and compassion become your new companions. As Saint Irenaeus said in the 2nd century, the glory of God is the human person fully alive. I don't know how you guys feel about what you heard, but I would love to attend that class. Here are some very short excerpts from an On Being interview that John did with the commentary. It'll be just under 10 minutes. I hope you can indulge me. I love listening to him speak.
Beauty isn't all about just nice loveliness. Beauty is about more rounded, substantial becoming. So I think beauty in that sense is about an emerging fullness, a greater sense of grace and elegance, a deeper sense of depth, and also a kind of homecoming for the enriched memory of your unfolding life.
John O'Donohue was an Irish poet and philosopher, beloved for his books, including Anam Cara, which is Gaelic for soul friend, and for his insistence on beauty as a human calling and a defining aspect of God. He died in 2008, and this was one of the last interviews he gave. John O'Donohue had a very Celtic, lifelong fascination with what he called the invisible world. His voice and writings continue to bring ancient mystical wisdom to modern confusions and longings. I'm Krista Tippett, and this is On Being.
So that's the start. 2 more excerpts. I have them time-stamped. 20.
I'm assuming you would suggest that people need to create more space and stillness, but I think what you're also saying is that simply by thinking differently about time, by approaching it differently, by putting on a new imagination, we can have a different sense of it. Is that right?
That's absolutely right, because I think that if you take time not as calendar product, but as actually the parent or mother of presence, then you see that in the world of spirit, time behaves differently, actually. I mean,
Time as the mother or the parent of presence, that you see the world differently. I personally, every time I listen to it, I hear presence instead of present, but it starts getting me going, that there's just something to explore. Next, 22.
Confusions in our times is to mistake glamour for beauty.
Yes.
And we do live in a culture which is very addicted to the image. And I think that there is always an uncanny symmetry between the way you are inward with yourself and the way you are outward. And I feel that there is an evacuation of interiority going on in our times, and that we need to draw back inside ourselves, and that we'll find immense resources there.
When you say symmetry, I don't think you mean that there's an equality, but that they are intimately connected, and that when we are putting our energy outward, right, it's taking something from inside.
It's taking something, exactly. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I mean. Mm-hmm. It's taking something from inside, and we're secretly debilitating ourselves. And you know, it's understandable too, because if you look at the educational system and you look at most of the public fora in our culture, there is very little time or attention given to what you could almost call learning the art of inwardness, or a pedagogy of interiority.
Right.
That's why I find the aesthetic things like poetry, fiction, good film, theatre, drama, dance and music actually awaken that inside you, you know, and remind you that there is a huge interiority within you. Like, for instance,
focus on the inside, the outside is a reflection of the inside. The modern world has a lack of focus on the internal. We as a culture are starving for that internal focus. One of the reasons that I consider John O'Donohue a mystic is because I find it very easy to relate to the world on a spiritual level through his eyes and through his stories. Mm-hmm. Last clip.
I'm Krista Tippett, and this is On Being. Today we're exploring the inner landscape of beauty, a notion of the late Irish poet and philosopher John O'Donohue. I interviewed him just before his death in 2008. John O'Donohue often wrote about beauty. He believed that the human soul does not merely hunger for beauty, but that we feel most alive in the presence of what is beautiful. It returns us often in fleeting but sustaining moments, he said, to our highest selves. You also suggest in your book about beauty that beauty can be a kind of antidote even to our most pressing global crises. How do you think of beauty as relevant in that sense?
Yeah, I think it's not just relevant, but I think it's actually necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that beauty is not a luxury, but I think it ennobles the heart and reminds us of the infinity that is within us. I always love what Mandela said when he came out, and I was actually in his cell in Robben Island one time I was in South Africa. And after 27 years in confinement for wrong he never committed, he turned himself into a huge priest and came out with this sentence where he said, that what we're afraid of is not so much our limitations, but the infinite within us. And I think that that is in everybody. And I suppose the question that's at the heart of all we've been discussing really, which is a beautiful question, is the question of God, And I think that one of the reasons that so many people turn away from religion in our times is that the God question has died for them. Because the question has been framed in such repetitive, dead language. And I think it's the exciting question. Once you awaken to the presence
you have
of God.
said, you're right, God is beauty.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Did you always feel that? Is that a sense that has grown in you, or something that you name now?
It's a sense that has grown in me, I suppose, that I've always kind of had the intuition about it. Because I feel that there are two ways that you must always keep together in approaching the God thing. One is, and this is what I like about the Christian tradition, and this is where I diverge a little from the Buddhist tradition, even though I love Buddhism as a methodology to clean up the mind and get you into purity of presence. And what I love is that at the heart of Christianity, you have this idea of intimacy, which is true belonging, being seen, the ultimate home of individuation, the ultimate source of it, and the homecoming, that's what I call spirituality, is the art of homecoming. So it's St. Augustine's phrase, like Deus intimio and temeo meo, God is more intimate to me than I am to myself. Then you go to Meister Eckhart and you get the other side of it, which you must always keep together with it, where in Middle High German he says, Gott wird und Gott entwirrt. That means God becomes and God unbecomes. Or translated, it means that God is only our name for it, and the closer we get to it, the more it ceases to be God. So then you're on a real safari with the wildness and danger and otherness of God. And I think when you begin to get a sense of the depth that is there, then your whole heart wakens up. I love Irenaeus' thing from the 2nd century, which said that the glory of God is the human being fully alive. And I think in our culture that one of the things that we're missing is that these thresholds where we can encounter this and where we move into new change in our lives, there are no rituals to help us to recognize them or to cross them worthily.
Threshold is a word.
I would love to have the conversation where, he used one of Master Eckhart's quotes, and he said, okay, so that's what it says, and this is how it's translated. But then he translated it again, which is what we talked about with the Rumi stuff.
Right.
And it's not only those words, but it's when you hear those words filtered through somebody who thinks, and on we go. In closing, I would like to leave you with another quote that I am very grateful to John for. And I have not been able to get through this yet without. Once the soul awakens, the search begins and you can never go back. From then on, you are inflamed with a special longing that will never again let you linger in the lowlands of complacency or partial fulfillment. The eternal makes you urgent. You are loath to let compromise or threat of danger hold you back from the striving towards the summit of fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
John O'Donoghue.
Thank you.
I have an article he wrote. Take it home with you.
Do you have that quote, in the final quote you gave us anywhere? Is it anywhere?
It's from this book.
Okay.
Actually, all three quotes, I had other quotes, but I took out the ones I didn't like, and it turned out that all three quotes came from this this book
Okay.
from Anna Carroll.
Yeah,
Anna
I'd
Carroll.
like to know that too. And so, did I understand it right when I said that, what is the name of that book?
Anam Cara, which means soul friend.
Anam means soul friend?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't have that whole stack.
Oh, I thought it was different stuff.
No,
Thank you.
it's one page.
Thanks for watching over me.
Well, everybody else is wanting to do.
Any comments? That was really nice. I liked his voice a lot. That was just, it's just melodic. What, any other comments on Mr. O'Donohue?
I do have just
What?
one quick technical question. His name is spelled two different ways in your article.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the bio, you
All
got
right,
it spelled one way, and in the next page.
It's okay, on the book it says.
Let me read O apostrophe DONOHUE. Anything else is a typo.
Okay, because you did it 3 times on the first page. That's why I was just checking.
Anything else is a typo. And I cut and paste a lot, so that would explain me doing that.
I think we'd still be able to find him.
Cool.
Irish poet, or Irish mystic. Is he considered a mystic at this point? In our
I don't know who grants those licenses, so.
we grant his license.
So yes.
You said yes.
Yes, absolutely it is.
Okay, any other comments? Any content comments? Were you gonna say something, Brenda?
No, I liked his response to your question.
Okay, then let's go ahead and take our break now. Come back 5 after, right? 15, close to 15. So let's move on then. That was a wonderful presentation about Mr. John O'Donohue. Thank you again. Yay. And then makes me gonna go out and get that book, actually. The top one there, Anna Cara. Yeah. And Cheryl pulled an article on Emma Curtis Hopkins, which I might steal because as I just said, I might be teaching that in the fall. And why Emma first? Are you open to talking about that on camera?
Sure. I think her name came up for books in another class that Barbara had taught. I don't even remember what it was. And so I am not familiar with her at all. So I had wanted to learn more about her. Unfortunately, I didn't really have time to read any of the books, and so I just pulled a bio, but that was really interesting to be able to read that information. So I just wanted to learn some more about her.
Okay, I'll read it. And then, so Emma Curtis Hopkins in religious science is known as the teacher of teachers, and Ernest Holmes studied with her. And that's where he got his kind of real push out of New Thought. And then he broke off from that and started Science of Mind. Just FYI, because it doesn't say that in here. But Emma Curtis Hopkins by Reverend Marjorie Dawson. In the mid-1800s, new philosophies were born through the work of Quimby, Emerson, Eddy, Thoreau, and Whitman. These people were part of a group called the Transcendentalists. They based their philosophy on the ancient idea of the law of correspondence, or, in other words, as the microcosm reflect the macrocosm. They gathered together with the purpose of leaving the old ideas behind. This new philosophy proclaimed the dignity and the worth of the individual. This idea of the worth of the individual was new. The new message carried a possibility of hope and a love of God. Josephine Emma Curtis was born into this atmosphere of change in a small town in Connecticut on September 2nd, 1849. Although most publications have her birth year as 1853, although most publications have her birth year as 1853, she was born in 1849. She was the oldest of 9 children and raised on a farm. The Curtis family valued education, and apparently Emma was an excellent student. In 1874, when she was 25 years old, she married George Hopkins. George was a high school English teacher that had a son who died at the age of 30. Emma and George lived separate lives beginning in the mid-1800s Eventually, George filed for divorce on the grounds of abandonment. So, in the mid-1800s, and they had a son at the 30. I'm just trying to put all those
The map
timelines
together, yeah.
into event. So she was, in 1874, she was 25 when she got married. And then they were obviously married for a while, but their son was probably only, what, I guess, 10, it looks like, 5 or 6 even, when they got divorced, or when they separated in the 1880s, right? That sounds it, because that's only 6 years later, right? So the kid must have, anyway, I was just trying to figure that out. So the boy died well after they had been divorced. So that death wasn't kind of a precipitating factor.
Oh, I thought it sounded like it was a son from a previous marriage, the way it was read. That's why I wasn't sure.
But it wasn't a precipitating point to their separation. They were already separated. I just wanted to figure that out for my own head, because that's something I've never heard. You look like you were going to say something like, okay. All right, so eventually they got a divorce on the grounds of abandonment. In the early 1880s, Emma had an ailment related to breathing and came to a Christian Science practitioner. And out of that healing experience, she contacted Mary Baker Eddy and began, I said Elizabeth Cady Stanton earlier, Mary Baker Eddy, and began working and studying with Ms. Eddy in Boston. Emma became the editor of the Christian Science Journal, and in 1886, without cause, Mrs. Eddy relieved Emma of this position. Probably that termination came out of Emma's broad education. It is known that she continued to read any and all material, and Mrs. Eddy believed that Christian Science was revealed only to her and that it should be considered the final word. Emma felt that the truth had been revealed to many people throughout history and that the truth was available to everyone. After the split with Eddy, Emma went on to establish her own school in Chicago. It was called the Emma Curtis Hopkins College of Christian Science. It's a mouthful. The Emma Curtis Hopkins College of Christian Science. And it graduated its first class in 1886. Was Ernest Holmes in that class, wasn't he? Wasn't he in the first class that Hopkins graduated? Okay, I thought maybe he was. In Chicago, her innovative ideas and policies built the foundation that provided the organizational structure of the New Thought movement in the United States. She established many study groups in the East and the West, from New York to Seattle, and in the Milwaukee and San Francisco and Washington, D.C. She visited these groups frequently and became known as the teacher of teachers. She also had study groups in Europe and traveled there. There were 17 branches of the Hopkins Metaphysical Association from Maine to California. On one of her trips to San Francisco, she taught 250 students. And in 1918, she was voted honorary president of the International New Thought Alliance, an organization which is still active today. Is it? Has anyone checked that? Do we know that?
INTA is still active because we were aligned with it in St. Louis when we were there.
Okay, I'm just wondering. Emma had a unique approach to her teaching. For one thing, she insisted that her students already knew everything that she was telling them. It wasn't so much a matter as learning, but as recalling or remember the spiritual instinct that is born within us. She had a great sense of integrity toward her students, where she felt equal with her students because all are expression of God. To her, the teaching was more important than the teacher. She showed great enthusiasm for high principles of truth. She insisted on discipline, to train the mind to think in a certain way at all times, and she challenged her students to prove out the truth principles in their lives. During this time, women were discounted, and it was thought their places were in the home. Emma did not fit into the mold. It is reported that she taught over 50,000 individuals. She ordained women as ministers. Another 30 years passed before women gained the right to vote. Some of her students went on to establish schools and churches, divine science, the home of truth, religious science, and unity. Her students included Emily Cady, the Fillmores, Ernest Holmes, and many others. Oh, Holmes was Emma's last student. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Holmes was Emma's last student. He studied with her in 1924, and she died in 1925. He described her as a stately woman who always wore a long dress, an elegant hat, and white gloves. Emma acknowledged 3 sciences: the material or physical science that declares laws, mental science, as all that we are is made up of our thought, and mystical science, which she emphasized. She drew from the Bible, the non-Christian scriptures like the how do you say that?
Bhagavad Gita?
Yeah, thank you. Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita.
The Avesta Zoroaster? I want to put a little Spanish twill on there. Zoroaster, Z-O-R-A-S-T-E-R.
Oh.
Do you know that? Avesta, A-V-E-S-T-A, Zoroaster. I don't know that. Who's got a this is what I say to my students, who's got a smartphone? Look it up.
I know it's not pronounced like it's spelled.
Probably not. Ancient Greek and Roman mythologies. So these are what she emphasized. She drew from the Bible and these non-Christian scriptures, including ancient Greek, Roman mythologies, and the world great philosophies and saints. She was the first to bring in the concept of the divine feminine. I didn't know that either. This is very interesting. She claimed the mind principle is the fatherhood of the Trinity. The sonship symbolizes the children who are the creations of mind, and the Holy Ghost is the mother life. Oh, that's where Mother, Father, God came from, perhaps, for unity. Huh. This is interesting. Huh? Emma has been called a new mystic. She has been described as an introvertive type of mystic who let go of the empirical ego so that the pure ego merged into the light, or what we might call an experience of unitive consciousness. Do you want me to reread that paragraph?
Yeah.
Okay, or sentence. Emma Curtis has been called a new mystic. She has been described as an introvertive type of mystic who let go of the empirical ego so that the pure ego merged into the light, or what we might call an experience of unitive consciousness. Unitive consciousness. That's nice. The mystical science deals with the hidden, unspoken, and the invisible. Emma Curtis Hopkins wrote in a way that we can relate this mystical science to everyday living. Ooh, now I'm definitely teaching Emma Curtis Hopkins. So, boy, there was a lot in that I didn't know. Any other comments about Emma? What did you find on your smartphone about the Zoroaster or whatever?
Yeah.
Zoroastrianism.
What?
Zoroastrianism.
Zoroastrianism.
What is it? Does it say in a brief thing?
That was just how to pronounce it.
Okay.
What is it? Do you want to know back?
A definition.
I'll look that up and bring something next week. That might fit in real nicely with some other things.
Yo, what's better?
Yo, what's up?
That's an interesting definition.
So that's how rappers got started, from Zoroaster.
Well, that was really interesting. Thank you. you. That's a great article.
Uh-huh.
And,
Very interesting.
can I keep this?
Absolutely.
I will, I'll look that up and I'll bring it next week, so we know. There's a lot of little things in there I didn't know. Anyone have any comments on this article? Or Emma Curtis Hopkins?
I'd love to know more about this empirical ego and what her perception was around ego and another concept of it. It sounds like some unified ego, maybe.
Right, a unitive consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you let go of the empirical ego so that the pure ego merged into the light.
Yeah.
Giving up yourself.
It's like it sounded like the collective unconscious
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the planetary dream. My
Right.
words of the same thing. I don't know if it is.
You're kind of going for a Jungian interpretation.
Yeah, I'm going to go in that direction.
I don't know. So, I'm interested. I will find some of these questions out.
Look forward to your class.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'll find them out for this class for next week so that we can be clear on what she was doing and where she got some of her inspiration from. Yeah. Do you have something
I
you want
have
to read?
something.
Okay.
Is it, this is a definition of Zoroastrianism, a Persian religion founded in the 6th century BC by the prophet Zoroaster. Okay, this one I can't say. Promulgated? Yes, in the Avesta, and characterized by the worship of a supreme god, Ahura Mazda, who requires good deeds for help in his cosmic struggle against the evil spirit Ahriman. Ahriman. Ahriman.
Okay. So he was another Persian like Rumi, just
Yeah.
several hundred years
Earlier,
prior.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's a huge lineage
Yeah.
before us, and that's what Mark Nepo was trying to get you to do, is to identify your wisdom lineage right now for you too. And I don't think many of you did that. You may have, but maybe we didn't talk about it. I'll take responsibility. So you might still want to do that, because as we go back, you do too, right? So, who is your lineage? Just curious now that we're talking about where we are, because as mystics, these are our 4 people, 4 founders. So in your immediate life, do you know who your wisdom is? Who you got your wisdom start from?
Are you talking how we developed it through our life?
Right now,
Okay.
yeah?
Mine started Native American and pagan.
Where?
Native American and pagan.
Okay, all right. Anyone in particular? You were talking about individuals.
No, honestly, I don't know names.
Okay,
I practiced with Wallace Black Elk, but we didn't talk about people's names.
okay,
You know.
all right. Anyone else?
Thoreau for me.
Who?
Thoreau.
Thoreau. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, Thoreau is one of the, heart connections that I've made. I remember being 9 years old in Sunday school and going, "You're not telling me the whole story here." And so after that, I ended up not going in Sunday school anymore and helping out with the nursery, and then also being a part of the Episcopalian service as an acolyte and doing my hands-on spirituality as being a part of, serving the Eucharist or whatever. And so you know, just that piece of really being connected to the process.
Mm-hmm.
And always finding a process has been huge for me. I had a 9th grade geography teacher who I think got kicked out for his actions at school, but it opened my whole world up because I think he was trying to do a paper and he got all the students to do his research for him because he said, okay, go search out, you know, you have to bring in 12 different religions, and all we had to do was copy it, you know, and bring the copies of what we researched. You know, I read, and you know, some people just copied it. I read a lot of what, you know, I had heard. That's when I first heard Zoroaster, you know, 20, 30 years ago.
Oh.
So, you know, he didn't come back second semester because I think some parents complained, but. You know, looking back, I'm grateful to him because it just opened, you know, I was like, there's this and there's this and there's this and you know, as a 9th grader, and then I, you know, spent a lot of time, you know, I've searched pagan, I've looked Native American, you know, Celtic, you know, Buddhism, whatever, you know, it's just taking it all in, and you know, I was like. You know, when I heard Ernest Holmes and he pulled the truth out of everything, I had already done a little bit of that. And then I was like, oh, okay, you've already done the work for me. You know, I mean, I already, you know, it was a nice confirmation for me to go, oh,
Right.
I'm not the only one that sees this is saying the same thing as this, and this is, you know, it's all saying the same thing,
Right.
just in different
Right,
ways.
so you also, like Bruzy, are not really able to identify an individual in that, or a wisdom lineage for yourself.
I mean, books, I mean, a lot of times, a lot of it came from books, and like saying, you know, Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I don't know, let me think about it a little more. You come back around to me, but
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I think on a personal level when I say that, and you guys are all like kind of out here with it, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know, like Adrienne Rich, you know, an American poet, feminist, lesbian, radical feminist, and before she died, was one of the first women in public life. Her lover was Barbara Smith, and, an African-American poet and writer. And oh my God, they just blew the lid off of the community, just in their faith and how they presented themselves. And it was amazing. Audre Lorde, you know, that's kind of like my wisdom lineage because I had no education, and so my first education were feminists, right? So that's my whole orientation.
Yeah, see, ours, we didn't have religion. I was raised Unitarian, and you don't study religion. You study science for Sunday school. And when you're in high school, you visit different temples and synagogues and churches so you can make a decision of what you're interested in.
Right.
As opposed to them telling you this is how it is and what you have to
Right,
believe.
but what tugged on your heartstrings? What got you to where
The
you
nature
wanted to
religions, always the nature religions.
be? The what?
Nature religions,
religions.
nature-based religions, which
Right.
is what the pagan and the Native American
Right,
both
Right.
are.
great.
Yeah. As I say, for me as a kid, I mean, I was closest to God when I was by myself in nature. Yeah, but also, talking about lineage, Dan Millman, I mean, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior was one of the first books that just opened my mind and my heart and just,
Okay.
you know, wide open.
Great. What about this table?
We were safe, we're no longer safe.
You can all both defer to Fran.
I didn't think, I just went to Catholic school and catechism, and it was laid out. And this is the way it is, and that's what I believe.
Right.
And a lot of me still does,
Right.
except for science of mind.
But you get wisdom from those things also.
Right. And St. Francis, which is.
In St. Francis. What about,
My mother was an intuitive, so and my grandma was mystical. Well, I mean, she was a minister in RSI, so, and Ernest Thomas, although I didn't get very much out of my conversations with Ernest.
Names mean nothing to me, so like, I
Okay.
don't.
all right.
Well, my dad was Christian Science and my mom was Lutheran. My mom's a pretty big free thinker, and when they told her we were needing to be confirmed, she said, no, not an option. They need to choose. They don't need to choose when they're 12 and 13 years old. And we kind of got booted out of the Lutheran church because my mom's a nonconformist. And so she let me go to all the churches to try to, kind of like what you're saying with Unitarian. And then I kind of just drifted for a while, and honestly, Ernest Holmes was I just wandered into a religious science church, and that was it for me. It made total sense to me.
You guys want to hop in or no? Tell me this, is there someone in your lives that has influenced you, like if we're not using the word wisdom lineage, then is there someone who's influenced you to become the woman you are today?
Well, for me, it's no one famous, but I, like Fran, grew up along the whole Catholic kind of line, and didn't really think much about it until I got older and decided that I couldn't go somewhere where I didn't agree with what they were telling me. It was like, I'm not in integrity with that. And so I found a Unity Church, and the minister there was non-denominational, and she had a huge impact in my life, and it wasn't even so much unity as just new thought and thinking differently, and a whole new perspective on things versus how I had been brought up. So I think she would be the pivotal person.
Okay. What do you think?
It's hard for me to nail down anything. There were so many things I saw at a young age, so many things I experienced. And then there were so many books I read, like Ramtha and, different things. It's hard to nail down. It was like you were raised as a Christian, so, you use the, different jargons that came with Christianity, it's born in the South. But then we'd also listening on conversations where they're like, well, so-and-so root so-and-so, and that's why it backfired, it hit so-and-so, and da-da-da-da-da-da. So you learn, you were walked in two worlds. So I walked in the world of Christianity, and I walked in the world of earth magic and things of that nature. People classify anything they want. Then I got more European in my study of earth magic, and that's when I learned more about magical herbalism and blah, 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 Scott Cunningham books, blah, 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 blah. And I read a lot of Greek mythology when I was bored, so if it's raining or whatever, and we had a bunch of encyclopedias, a whole bunches of different old books. And I would just look up one character, and then it would talk about another character, There's a lot I can't nail down. My dreams are wicked, my experiences were crazy. When I really started realizing that we were forced to go to church, and the big old church bus would come and gather up all the black kids to go to this evangelistic church. And they would do all kinds of fear-based things. So they would do crazy stuff like all the kids would get in there and settle down, and all the parents were like home sleeping. They didn't want to go to church, but they'd send your ass out so they can so they get their groove bone, to be honest, but
I'm
okay.
gonna ask you to bring it back
Oh, yeah.
around to the question, though.
That's what I'm saying.
I
That's
know.
why I'm
There's
so
a lot.
silent.
It's
It's
a lot of
so
stuff.
much.
Right.
But when, you know, they did fear-based things like cut off the lights, and then the kids would start screaming, and they would cut the lights on. I'm like, well, whoever turned the lights on, you know, they're going to hell. I mean, whoever was screaming when the lights were off, you're going to hell, because, you know, that's your guilt. You did all this stuff, and I'm sitting there going, wow. So then my spirit wouldn't allow me to just buy into everything. So I had a bunch of nightmares, and I kept talking to these different ministers about why am I having this stuff, and you know, they were saying it was the devil trying to get me. But anyway, one night I was in my bed, and I was feeling like I was having a battle with something, and then when I was able to open my eyes, I saw my room was filled with creatures, things I'd never seen before, small, some human looking, all this stuff. Because my eyes were like, they're gone. And that was just one of those things like, there is another existence. What you're hearing with the women and all the stuff that's going on, there's real stuff out here. There's real nature spirits. You know, there is no one thing. I've been in many different religions. I was part of a Japanese religion called Mahikari of America.
So this is your wisdom lineage then?
That's the best that I could tell you. But, you know, I would love to be able to say, oh, it was my Aunt Susie May, and, you know, and it was this. But it wasn't. It was a bunch of different experiences that was knocking on my psyche saying, you are supposed to see all this stuff. You are supposed to experience that. So my lineage would be old women, old black women, unnamed, died, did miracles before they died.
Right.
You know, healings, realizations. There were churches, the old time churches that believed in purifying you in the water, and a lot of that stuff was African based, and a lot of them probably didn't even know.
Right.
So that's all I have. If I do any more, we'll be here till next week.
You should teach a class. Anyone else? You want to talk about anyone specific that's influenced you spiritually or your lineage?
I want to say that my this is a new way of being for me. I was raised as a communist atheist and believed that we lived in a chaotic world where there was no order, because that's what I was told to believe, until I saw that that wasn't the truth. And I'm so grateful for that. So I also lean toward the natural world. And I think that for me initially, spirituality was the music I played and the art that I loved. That it was the impressionist artists that drew my heart in a way that nothing else had. And then I had a knowing, and I call it that now, I don't know what I would have called it before, that there is a divine connection, and that beauty is the result, the outgrowth, the thing that I understand, that is the connection that we have, and that God is everything. That's where it came from for me. And I had to keep that a secret for a really long time from my parents. So it just grew. It grew in me.
Okay. Good. Okay. Fran, did you want to talk about your person?
Okay,
Okay.
so I chose there were many St. Francises, but St. Francis of Assisi. So, and he was born in a small town in Italy in 1182. And he was considered the most popular saint in history. And part of it was because he accomplished quite a bit, but in a very short life. His father was a wealthy fabric merchant, therefore St. Francis was fairly educated for the time, and they were fairly wealthy, and he lived kind of a wild, partying life. And at age 20, he joined the war, and he was wounded and taken prisoner, and he had to live in a dungeon where he got malaria. So he was pretty sick for several years, and while he was sick, he thought of a vocation to help the sick and the poor and to promote peace and justice. And he realized that he had a following and decided that with the following he would start an order of priests to carry out his work of missions, peace, helping the animals, promoting environmental causes. And he was the first person known to receive the stigmata, which are the 5 wounds that Jesus Christ had when he was on the cross. And St. Francis died in his early 40s, and he was canonized a saint within 2 years after his death, which is real soon after
Yeah,
death.
that's real
Doesn't
fast.
really happen. And he wrote a prayer, and it's called Prayer of St. Francis, and it's pretty well known, and I have a copy of it that I can share with everybody. And also, there's a little bit of a different rendition of this particular prayer that's used in the 12-step program. My personal affinity with St. Francis came when, at the age of 12 in the Catholic religion, we get confirmation. So at the school that I went to, the nuns, before our confirmation, chose a particular saint for us to use as a role model for our lives. And the sacrament of confirmation is kind of a rite of passage. It's like a bar or a bas mitzvah, which is kind of a lead-in to adulthood, where we're supposed to learn responsibility to ourselves and to other people and community. But the name that they chose for me was this St. Francis of Assisi. So all my life, I've just sort of tried to live like he did with, doing healing work and just living, making sure I was in integrity with everything I did. But when he's pictured, you always see him standing there, and there are trees and flowers and all kinds of animals all around, because those were the things that he was most interested in. And fairly recently, somebody gifted me with a deck of animal totem cards. And what you do is you mix the cards up, and every day you randomly just choose one, and there are affirmations. So then you use that affirmation with that particular animal for that day as a guide. So if you guys want to, you can just choose one and then, start your day tomorrow with that particular animal and the affirmation that goes with it.
Is that Animal Speaks cards? Or?
No.
Actually, it's a psychic. There's a gentleman named Rick who was a psychic, and he did the photographs of the animals. The front of it is a lion, but he also wrote the affirmations.
He took every photograph.
Yeah, there are, you know, it's a whole deck, and he did all of it. So I can pass these around and then just randomly choose one, and that'll be your totem for
And then
tomorrow.
there is a card that tells them what it is.
Right, right, that does the.
Now, are you telling us to keep the card, or do you want the
No.
card back?
Just checking.
No,
Put it back in. Make it
I just
look-
want to make sure I understood you correctly.
Remember
Right.
the card.
Right, so then, and alter, so evil would be, I am free.
Okay.
What did you get, Sharon?
I got an eagle.
Wow.
Egret.
I am connected.
Lizard.
They're powerful.
I am detached.
Wow.
Butterfly.
I am transformed.
Let's try that again. Donkey.
Donkey?
Mhm.
Oh, I love donkeys.
I do too.
I am tenacious.
Remember, these are just affirmations, and I'm telling you like what your soul body is
For a day.
for a day.
Tomorrow.
That's right.
Vulture.
I am patient.
Eagle.
I am free.
Really, it's so, I love these.
Me too.
Ooh, what am I
I
gonna
know.
get?
Yeah, it's fun.
It's almost like winning the lottery, isn't it?
Gorilla.
I am strong.
Yeah. Yep, it is. Am I just too excited or what?
I like it.
Okay. Bison.
I am abundant.
Ooh.
Yeah. And you need to draw one for us as well.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Oh.
Lorikeet.
Say it again.
Lorikeet.
What is it?
What is
A
it?
bird?
Beautiful little birds, and they eat sugar.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's beautiful.
They drink sugar.
I am love.
Yes, you are.
So, okay, and then this is the prayer.
Did you want to read the prayer?
I was gonna play it, but I don't know how to do the magic to do the computer and all that.
Do people want to listen to that on our way out? They do that as our
Closing?
our closing meditation thing?
Could you do it on your computer?
It would take me 5 minutes to get my computer back.
Oh,
Let's see
okay.
if
Do
it's
you
on.
have it on a flash drive or something? or
No,
Oh, okay.
What is it?
I don't even have a smartphone. Mine's a,
Oh,
mine's a regular,
okay then.
so,
Well,
But
did you
I
have
can-
copies of it
Yeah.
to hand out to everybody?
yeah.
Then we can all read it together, like
Okay.
aloud.
Yeah, that's
It's
a great
true.
idea.
You want to try it? Let's do that, okay. So let's go ahead and do the offering first, and that treatment, and then we'll do this as our closing tonight. That's a great idea, Breezy. So, and thank you, Fran.
Yay!
That was really just amazing. I'm looking forward to next week now. Aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are you guys doing? Are you all ready to go
Nope.
next week? All right. And this is what we know, that the generosity and love that is shared here tonight goes in these baskets and out around and comes back to us. It is free-flowing. The love is solid. It feels effervescent. It feels like it escapes our grasp. But the truth is that we are that which we stand on holy ground and in our knowledge, and we know that we are, and everything that we give comes back to us with abundance and with love. And so it is.
And so it is.
Go.
You want to make a circle? Let them make circles.
All right. And so with great gratitude and blessing, we are now going to read the prayer of St. Francis as our closing. And we're going to do it together to the best of our ability. The prayer of St. Francis of Assisi.
Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in dying that we are born to eternal life.
And so it is.
So it is.
Nice. Thank you. And we'll see you all next week.
All right.
All right.
Thank you all for letting me join in.
I'm glad you did.